Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Economic Development Innovation Committee. Today, we are hosting our, roundtable discussion with the leaders of our HBCUs. This idea really kind of started with Councilmember Fort and I met with Dr. McPhail a few months ago and had a little discussion about ways we can work together more collaboratively and strengthen the relationships, economic development opportunities. And so we wanted to have a more formal sit down with both Dr. Dillard and Dr. McPhail. There's not really an agenda for today other than hoping to come out with some good ideas. I do have to just say off the top that we will not be discussing today in detail the rezoning case regarding Shaw, as that is scheduled for public hearing. And I will turn that over to Mr. Raleigh.
Well, gee, I might as well go home.
I know you had a burning desire to have that conversation and continue it. No. So good afternoon, Presidents Dillard and McPhail. We are certainly happy to have you here today. And as you heard kind of the setup from Councilmember Melton in terms of what has led us to this conversation today. So I know that in the interest of time, you both have prepared some information and some introductory remarks that you'd like to make. And so I will very quickly here turn the floor over to you. And I think after that, we'll turn things over back to the committee for a bit of dialogue and exchange. So without further ado, Dr. McPhail, I believe you have selected to go first.
All right, by way of introduction, when I look at St. Augustine's University, we're one of 101 HBCUs in the United States. We're one of 36 private HBCUs in the United States. We are one of 10 HBCUs in the state of North Carolina, and we're one of two faith-based Episcopalian-based institutions in the United States. And we are one of two HBCUs in the city of Raleigh, which you should be very proud of, by the way. So with that introduction, I'll do a quick overview of our mission. What I'd like to call attention to the mission statement is that broad statement about us looking at how we can sustain a learning community in which students are prepared academically, socially, and spiritually for leadership in this ever-changing world. And we take that very seriously in our policies and our practices. And of course, we have dreams. In our vision statement, we dream big. We want to be nationally recognized as a comprehensive institution in our education, along with our sister institution at Shaw. Dr. Dillard and I collaborate frequently on how we can join forces to position both institutions, not only individually, but collective, to make a difference here in the state. And particularly here in the city. So moving on, here's a quick glance of who we are. Founded in 1867 after Shaw was founded a few years before. Approximately 1,000 students. I use the word approximately not because I failed to commit, but we do an annual calculation of where we are. We do summer, we do fall, we do spring, and then we have a 8-week term embedded in those 2 traditional semesters, so we're still counting. We have 24 majors. We have 15 minors. We're small, and we like that intimacy at the institution. We're among the top 50 institutions that can confidently say that we contribute to upward mobility, and we're very proud of that. So in other words, we distinctively make a difference in the change in the lives of the students that we serve. According to the United Negro College Fund, we bring in over $72 million into this area. We believe it's higher, and I believe now United Negro College Fund believes that it is, and they will be doing another economic impact study soon. We're home to SAU's historic chapel. We get a lot of attention on that chapel, visitors, people who are interested in just the history itself, but also looking at the magnificence of the facility. And of course, St. Agnes Hospital, you know the history well. And we want to boast of a few HBCU first, the first radio station on HBCU. Dr. Sapp would chastise me if I didn't mention the first to have a cycling team and a rowing team. We are boastful about that 39-year championship track record in track and field. Some upcoming plans and initiatives of significance we'd like to share with you today is the proposed 327 housing development that's still being developed. We're getting close to bringing closure to that agreement with the funders, and then, of course, we'll be rolling that conversation out to the community. We are, like many of our sister HBCUs and brother HBCUs, our infrastructure definitely needs attention. This year, we have partnered with some developers who are interested in working with us with our HVAC system. Now, that may not look like big and sexy work, but right now, I'll tell you, we have 5 buildings down that needs that kind of attention. And so we're lucky to be able to find the funders who are willing to invest in that. And it will make a world of difference to our faculty and students when they come back. We're also looking at how we can do something with our residence halls. So that's a major project for us. We're working with outside prospective donors and our alumni to take a look at what we can do we're targeting the residence halls that are in the worst shape. And some of our students will tell us daily they're all in the worst shape. But we're looking at how we can put a better face on those that we think can be repaired. We're also, thanks to your support as well from the city of Raleigh, looking forward to our grand opening of our Tuttle building what you funded. We're very pleased that we're going to be able to do that officially in the fall. And we have named it St. Augustine's Public Health and Education Center. It's a lovely building. Can't wait to have you all come back through and see what it looks like now. Okay, moving forward, the Board of Trustees have asked us to focus our development opportunities in 5 different areas. They believe because of our academic programming, particularly in public health, business, and criminal justice, and some of the related disciplines, that we are uniquely positioned to promote entrepreneurship. The business department does have an initiative now that they will put into place in the fall, and it's very exciting, and it does include some reach out to the city of Raleigh. We know that we're not going to be competitive at St. Augustine's University unless we get into global competitiveness more actively. We're building up on our St. Agnes history, upon the fact that we have an undergraduate degree in public health to promote public health in the area of health equity. We're dreaming that one day we will bring St. Agnes back as a center for the study of social determinants of health. I'll mention that a little bit later. And that we're also looking at STREAM. Our team, when they started to take a look at STEAM, they said it wasn't global enough for our disciplines and that we should add research in the arts because we have a growing film and visual arts program, so we wanted to put that in the area. We're also aggressively launching our undergraduate research agenda in the fall across disciplines. Moving forward, what are our students doing? I just picked a few that you may find interesting. Ms. Ashley Weeks is our new Ms. SAU, but she's in her own business accounting area, and she has her internship at Deloitte this summer. The next student is Sean Callahan. Sean is a rising senior, and of course he's probably at the Nationals now, trying to compete for this year, and his internship is at Lenovo. Anaya Archer is a rising senior as well, and she's at Sony this summer. And Peter was saying, I wish I could clone him, and all of them. Peter decided, I don't want just 1 degree, I need 2. And so he's coming back in the fall to finish out. He graduated in biology, and he's just fascinated with engineering, mathematics. So he's going to be at Stanford in his fellowship this summer. And also, he's been at Stanford, and he's looking at HP in software engineering. Just an amazing young man. And he served as our student trustee this last year. And our last candidate I guess he was the last. So what do we think we may be doing moving forward with St. Agnes? You'll hear me talk about this. Invite me anywhere, I'm going to talk about St. Agnes. So we know our zip code, 27610, any major disease that you can think of, this zip code has it proportionately higher than the other zip code in the state of North Carolina. So we're thinking about building up on our legacy as St. Agnes, not trying to get a hospital back. We know that we can't do that. But what about a center for the study of social determinants of health, where we could bring in scientists, where we could train students and get our faculty paired with this and have those labs and those kinds of things for students to grow. And if you look at the areas of study that may originate out of this center, we're going to have to look at economic stability because health is a big issue there as well. Access to quality education, healthcare access, neighborhood and built around the environment, and social and community context. But let me focus on that just for a moment. The Public Health Education Center, formerly Tuttle, we already know that there's some programming that we can direct toward this, and we're reaching out. We have a memorandum of understanding with the North Carolina Community Health Workers Association, where we see St. Augustine's being able, through our public health degree and the certifications that we can do, we can help diversify the workforce in those entry-level healthcare positions. And that's what we're thinking about positioning ourselves to do. Are we there yet? No. But we know that we are positioned to do that. We've also establish a relationship with AT Steels to be an off-site center for them, for physician's assistants. We're not accredited to do that, but we can be a site where they can provide their program, and they've collaborated with us on this. So what we're trying to do, as you can see, is build upon the resources that we already have to build out our niche for St. Augustine's University, because whenever Dr. Dillard and I are out there in D.C., different places, they always want to know what distinguishes you in your area and what makes you different than other institutions. So that's pretty much where we are. Now, you did ask for some recommendations of what partnerships may look like. So we dreamed. Establish a City of Raleigh's racial equity initiative, similar to what happened in Charlotte. We think $100 million partnership to look at what we can do for $100 million for each of the institutions would be great for you to put in a line item in your budget and solicit other support to get us there. We're happy about that. Also, in collaboration, both institutions would think it's a good idea if we had a difference maker in the end. This is Dr. Dillard's baby here, and she and I talked about it. And she says, we need to make a difference. So what would that difference maker look like? And we talked about workforce development and digital equity as a way to focus on that. And then, of course, we want you to continue to be proud of the 2 HBCUs in this city. And we think that there are numerous ways that we could collaborate and have the support of the city to move Shaw and St. Augustine's University into career and research-focused institutions. We're already there, despite our limited resources, but we can be so much more better at what we do. So Dr. Dillard and I, we do not lament about what we don't have, and we do not let what we don't have define us. In other words, we decided to choose between the 2 B's. We can be bitter or we can be better. So we decided that we're going to be better, and we need your support to do that. So that's where we are.
Well, Dr. Dillard, Dr. McPhail, appreciate those comments. I think, Dr. Dillard, you now have some introductory remarks you'd like to make in sharing some of the Shaw strategic vision, correct?
Well, actually, they so much mirror
Right.
what Dr. McPhail has already said. It'll go pretty quickly because Councilmember Melton, has carved out, 3/4 of my opening remarks.
And you are welcome to touch on those. I just, for
I
purposes of
understand.
the public, had
I
to make it clear that we would not get into the specifics of the rezoning since there's a separate public hearing for that.
Right.
That was a concern that was flagged for me before the meeting started.
So we have to use our imagination.
Thank you. As Dr. McPhail has indicated, Shaw University was founded in 1865, 2 years before St. Augustine's. And for 157 years, we have been in downtown Raleigh. And so we think we are unique in that way, not only being an HBCU, but being so intricately connected to the evolution in the city of Raleigh. We are also, the oldest historically Black college and university in the southern United States, and we have a number of firsts, as Christine has mentioned, for St. Aug, in that we were the first college in the United States, not just North Carolina, to offer a 4-year medical school curriculum. And that is, something that we're extremely proud of. We no longer have a medical school, but we have that history of having trained over 400 Black physicians during the time that the Leonard Medical School was in existence. And we are also the first historically Black college and university to open its doors to women. On a coeducational campus. And Estee Hall if you'll take note, will turn 150 years old this year. And she was built in 1873 as the first dormitory to house women. And because of her historical significance, we have received probably $2 million in funding from the National Historic Preservation to restore her. And so this summer, I'm going to have to find someplace else to house my office because we're doing the roof and the HVAC system for Estee Hall. And of course, Shaw University is the site of the founding of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And so we have a rich history in the area of social justice. And in 2020, we launched the Center for Racial and Social Justice and did some work with the city of Raleigh immediately following the George Floyd murder. In addition to that, we have also, like Christine, been in the health disparities arena in that in 2009, the NIH funded the Institute for Health, Social, and Community Research at Shaw. And as part of the understanding of the impact of COVID on our community, Shaw has partnered with the Department of Health and Human Services here in the state to understand, the impact and really document exactly what has happened to our community and the ability to recover from that impact. So we're excited about that health disparities work. And we last year became the first historically Black college and university to receive gold standard certification from the CEO Roundtable on Cancer. And so we are, deeply entrenched in addressing inequity wherever we find it. Shaw University has been continuously accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges since 1943, and most recently was reaffirmed for 10 years in December 2022. So we have a lot of historical first, a lot of things that constitute a great legacy. However, where we've been won't get us to where we need to be. And so we have this vision of creating the Shaw U District in Raleigh, North Carolina. We think after 157 years, a district that, recognizes our presence would be appropriate. And so moving along, the Shaw U District just creates an opportunity to invite Raleigh into what is so historically significant about Shaw University and its contributions. We already have a Capital District. We have the Fayetteville Street District. We have Glenwood South, Moore Square, Warehouse District, Seaboard and Person Street. Why not a Shaw U District? And why not it being the southern, tip of downtown? As Christine had mentioned, as part of the UNCF economic impact study, it shows that Shaw has an $88 million economic impact, and this is just looking at 2014 data. And so it will be upgraded in the next few months, actually. They are engaging in that study now. And Shaw University creates basically 847 jobs. And graduates of Shaw in the class of 2014 is anticipated to generate $781 million lifetime earnings. And that all goes back into the areas in which they live and work. Next slide. So some of our academic programs that we are excited about, and I think addresses some of the unique challenges that we have as an area. And one is life sciences. Yes. This is one of the top 5 domains for life sciences in the United States. And so as we looked at that data, and we have a very strong and robust biology program, and so we're looking to transform that into more of a life sciences focus and create avenues for our students to be able to contribute to the rapidly growing life sciences industry that makes up the triangle. So next slide, please. So we're going through a renovation of the Roberts Science Building right now. And it is the first step in creating what we're going to call the Shaw Life Sciences Institute. And we are looking to partner with life sciences organizations. We've been in talks with a number of those about how we could create a pipeline of students who are going into that industry because it is fast growing and there's clearly not enough talent available. And so we're excited about that, and we're in the early phases of developing the Life Sciences Institute. Another program that we are extremely excited about, and Christine already referenced it, is we were just blessed to receive $5.3 million from NTIA, which is part of the Department of Commerce, and it is their National Telecommunications and Information Agency. And what that allows us to do is launch a cyber operations program at Shaw University. And it was launched in fall 2022, and we've already seen an increase in enrollment associated with that program. We've received funding from cyber.org, the National Science Foundation, NTIA, and we are partnering with Warren County Schools. Keith Sutton, you all know him, on a summer immersion program. We did the first one this past summer because he comes from a under-resourced county. And so to bring those students into Shaw for a summer immersion program in computer programming, et cetera, has been, you would not believe the transformation in those young people just having the opportunity to participate in that camp. And I don't know if you saw in the paper recently that we have an articulation agreement with Wake Tech around cybersecurity. Just had a big pitch contest, and Shaw University students took first and second prizes in that endeavor. And so we're really excited about that. And I'll come back to why that's going to be important in our partnership talks. And another area that Shaw is doing exciting things is in its digital media center. We've launched the Bear Cave podcast and have participated in a number of public service announcements for which we've received funding. So we're just excited about all of the exciting things that are going on at the university. And one of our hopes is to create a digital media center where we focus on storytelling, and that's documentaries, podcasts, those kinds of things. And so that's another area that we are very, very excited about, and great things are happening. And finally, the discussion, which should be the final slide. Back when the federal government provided the ARP funding, Shaw University, along with the city of Raleigh and Wake County and the Du Bois Center, put forward a proposal to create digital workforce hubs, one on the north side of the city and one in southeast Raleigh, hosted at Shaw University. Unfortunately, the proposal was not funded. There were a lot more folks wanting the money than there was money to fund it. But we believe that it is still something that is very, very important to do in Southeast Raleigh. And that is to begin to build a workforce that will fill some of these jobs in, the digital space that are going unfilled right now. And I'm not talking about the programmers and those people. I'm talking about people that have to keep the wiring intact, the people that, troubleshoot, issues. And those are skills that can be trained. And we believe that if we, along with St. Augustine's and the city of Raleigh, could partner to create, a digital workforce hub for the purpose of training in that field, it would be of great value from an economic development perspective. And if you go to I think will be the last slide, what it is, a digital hub where we would do training and job pairing and create an accelerator. And, and we believe that together, our two institutions, along with the city of Raleigh, could make that happen. In past history, St. Augustine's and Shaw University partnered as part of the Raleigh Technology Center, the RBC, I think it was RBTC, 900 Wilmington Street. It didn't, pan out, but that doesn't mean that the concept wasn't, an excellent concept. So what we believe is that working together, we could create a training center to bring a large sector of the workforce into jobs that they are currently not trained for, but they have the potential to be. And it doesn't require necessarily that they have a college education, but as the North Carolina attainment goal as it relates to education is a good secondary credential. And we believe that your two HBCUs are positioned to do that. And we could do that beginning with the digital hub as one, and training healthcare workers, as Christine has talked about, because that's the other huge deficit that we have in workforce. And so we need to be able to train those healthcare workers and those that will support the digital revolution that is here to stay. And so we come today with excitement about being able to be contributors to the ecosystem that is the city of Raleigh, and not always viewed as coming because we need something, for survival, and being often categorized as, oh my goodness, what do they need now? And so we wanted to sort of come and sort of begin to change that narrative, because we do, as both of us have indicated, bring economic impact to the city. We are constantly producing, contributing citizens, and we would like to expand the partnership to be able to do more in this great city of Raleigh. And we certainly enjoy being here and would like to really honestly start to talk seriously about what it means to be partners and not, what do you call it? We're not a social, need, but more of a desire to partner and to continue to make this city the great city that it is. So thank you for having us.
All right, we'll take it back to the table for some discussion. Councilmember Fort.
Well, first, I want to thank you both for being here. I think your presentations were great. And one of the things I know about both of your institutions is that you provide opportunities for students who oftentimes may be first generation, college students that are, coming into the city of Raleigh and coming to your institutions. I guess my question would be, can you speak to how both of your presentations would help you with recruitment and getting providing more opportunities for folks, not just in the city of Raleigh, but really throughout the state of North Carolina and the country, to provide these innovative opportunities for some young people. So whichever one of you want to take that question first, but I think that's important to explain to the public as well.
Right now, speaking for Shaw, almost 60% of Shaw students come from North Carolina. Rural North Carolina students come with a different level of preparedness than coming out of the city of Raleigh or Charlotte, et cetera. And so what we're able to do with students from rural backgrounds is amazing. And one of the things that we're proud of that doesn't show up in the statistics is that many of those go back to those communities and make those communities better. And Shaw, is excited about that. But when you are a first-generation college student, you have to be in a situation where you can have the scaffolding around you to succeed. The data is clear. Many of our students have the grade point average and the means to go to other institutions, but they do not prevail. They have experiences where they are not encouraged and worked with, and they end up coming back to our institutions simply for what we're able to provide, and that's that scaffolding around, who you are and your capabilities and feeling like you're in a supportive environment. And so for those students, we are, the better selection. And one of the things that we fight hard for, both of us, is for students to have the right to choose a school like Shaw or St. Augustine's, and that it should remain an option for students who want that kind of environment. And that becomes harder as college affordability becomes an issue. So almost 70% of Shaw students are Pell eligible students. And so they require a heavier lift. Almost 70% are Pell eligible. And so those students usually have to work a job and go to school, and in some cases send money back home to parents from the work that they do. And so that makes it a challenge to finish in 4 years like a typical well-resourced student. And so we, as HBCUs, have created environments where, it might take you 6 years, because you might go one semester and stop out and come back. And because we do that, it impacts the statistics that are reported on our institutions, because the way you report retention rates and graduation rates are based on a student that starts with you right out of high school. And if they drop out or if they transfer in, they're not counted in your statistics. And so sometimes it's not a clear picture of just exactly what we do. But these programs that we're sharing with you today, many of the students that come to us as first generations have no idea that these kind of careers exist. They've never seen anybody that does the kind of things that we're talking about. And so having that ability here at our institutions is a game changer. And I tell everybody that Shaw University is surrounded by opportunity, because I can sit and look and see Red Hat and everything. And so for students to come from other places and have the experience of our institutions as well as the city of Raleigh, it is impactful.
It is, and Dr. Dillard mentioned us taking a look at the research when we look at what's happening in our surrounding high schools, the data suggests that those numbers are dwindling. And that means that we have to be even more aggressive in terms of diversifying our student population base. To that end, St. Augustine's University started this last year with an initiative called Urban Access Hubs. We believe that those students in cities where there are no HBCUs need that geographical gap shouldn't keep them from coming to HBCUs. With that in mind, we reached out to 20-plus community colleges in different locations throughout the United States to have access hubs at their particular community college, and we have memorandums of understanding with those institutions. For example, the community college system in Colorado, the Wayne County community in Denver, in Detroit, the Wayne County Community College District in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The agreement with the Kalamazoo Mission Community College is that their transfer students will get a full ride for their whole career at St. Augustine's University. We felt for us to continue to be competitive, we did need to diversify our student populations. We're also reaching out aggressively to the Native American students in the state of North Carolina. We met with their leaders. Indeed, we've also met with leaders outside of North Carolina in Arizona as well. But there's a population that's been somewhat hidden from HBCUs. For the most part, we focus on a heavy recruitment on first-time in college students, high school graduates. Recently, we know that many older adults want the programs that we are offering. So that means that we have to shift our focus and have resources inside the older adult really doesn't care about the football team. But they do care about child care. They do care about health care. So if we focus on that population, we have to be willing, as Dr. Dillard said, to provide appropriate resources with their needs, because they will need those support services in order to be successful at the university. We believe that we can make that shift and still retain the uniqueness of the HBCU experience, because that's what many of our students want. That's what they cherish. That's what the alumni tell us when they come back on homecoming weekend. And we believe we're ready to deliver on the multiple options at the HBCU.
And Christine, you can just look over across the street. When Shaw University had its highest student enrollment of 2,700 students, almost 1,000 of those were adult learners.
Yeah.
And so Shaw pioneered a program called Alternative Centers for Education, and placed them in 9 cities across North Carolina. And prior to the onslaught of University of Phoenix, Strayer, et cetera, Shaw was the leader in adult education in the state of North Carolina. And we have over 4,000, adults who went through that program, and many of them serve in public service here in North Carolina that went through that program. So it is doable, but it is we have to reshape how we deliver on the platform. And we received a grant from Lumina Foundation last year, focused on retooling for the adult learner. And so we're excited to share what we have learned so far, and we've just partnered with UNCF on a re-enrollment sprint.
Yes.
Where we try to get those that have stopped out to come back and finish their degree, and what support do they need to be able to do that.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Mayor, do you have anything?
I'm processing.
Processing.
Thank you. When you were talking about the digital workforce hub, I was thinking about the City Pathways Center, which is adjacent really to Shaw. And
That was the Raleigh Business Technology Center. I think it's 900 Wilmington Street. Yes.
well, and I know there we still have our digital connectors program. The mayor talks about that a lot, which helps young students with computer literacy, things like that. And so this idea of this digital workforce hub, I think really sort of could be a nice extension of that for older students and
Yes.
even the adult population. And the point about creating a training center to bring more of the workforce in to get trained into the skills that are needed for the jobs of today. I think about, not to get too political, but I think about, President Obama talked about that a lot. After the economic downturn, a lot of those jobs were gone, and how do we get folks retrained and retooled for the workforce of today? And so I guess my question is, to stand something like that up, obviously funding would be an issue, but what other needs are there? Is it facilities? Is it, how can we be helpful?
The original proposal included facilities, and in this case, it was even, repurposing, existing facilities. But facilities would be one. Staff would be another, because, that's going to be very important to have the skill sets for people to come in and offer up the kind of training, and then the technology devices, the equipment that's needed to provide the training. And so those were the primary elements that were in the proposal that we had prepared in hopes of getting ARP funding a couple of years ago.
Building up on that, the tangible piece is that it's going to have to go beyond involvement. It's going to have to go to commitment, and it has to go beyond 1 year or 2 years. It has to be an intentional approach to a facility, a strategy, a mindset that this community deserves it, and we're in it for the long haul. Otherwise, 5 years from now, we'll remember that program we started? It didn't work. Build it into how we do business here in Raleigh, and we're in it for the long haul.
I think the public health really health careers, we are moving into almost a critical, time as it relates to those, and it doesn't mean that we're talking about all doctors. There's
Exactly.
the whole delivery system, and we believe that our schools, along with partnerships with the community colleges, et cetera, it's very, in a very unique position to be able to bring all elements of various communities together to get that training so that we can provide, people to fill jobs. People need to work, but they don't have the skill set for where we are now. And we're willing, and able, to move into that space. And I think beginning with, the digital hub, because that one probably is not as difficult a lift as all of the various healthcare careers. But I think it would create a model that we could start to build workforce development hubs, in the city that, that are, filling jobs as we identify, top needs. And right now, those two, jump out at me when I look at the data. And of course, teachers are the others. You know, we're looking for funding to try to get more folks into the classroom. You know, we have, and especially at the elementary ed
Absolutely.
and pre-K level, we have, you know, a 5-star program over at Shaw, including a child development center. But the reason we can't get people to go into those programs is because of, you know, of funding. And so we know that that's a major need. And we've just got to find the funding.
When you say funding, explain that more.
To pay for the courses, you can't, come back to school and get the credentials you need, if you're working a job that just doesn't allow for it. So it's scholarship funding, I think, would be the best way. So it's scholarships that we need to support people wanting to go into education.
Well, there's also, let's face it, they're not well paid.
Right.
So what incentive is there, unless you're just one of these people who really is rewarded by service? And so that's an issue as well. A lot of what you're describing here, I've just been listening, really, to me, has a lot to do with public-private partnerships. And, you mentioned healthcare. We have some of the finest healthcare facilities around. I know at one point at St. Aug's, we were talking about renovating St. Agnes, and UNC Rex had an interest in setting up a facility there. And, but we have 3 major hospital systems here. We have a number of technology firms. Like, Councilmember Fort, you were at the Women's Leadership Conference today. One of the stats that was brought up is, okay, during the recession, there were I'm tempted to say 8 or 12 people for every job. This past year, it was 1 for every job. Now it's 0.9. So we don't have the people to fill the jobs.
No, you don't.
And I would think that it would be in some of these corporate clients' best interests to help provide that pipeline. I mean, if they're partnered with you and they're getting, first off, they're improving their diversity, they're getting qualified students, and, they're creating that pipeline for the future. That, to me, is the answer, is that public-private piece.
And we've been in discussions with a number of organizations about partnerships. Like one of the programs that we've been trying to get funded through life science partners. We've talked to Biogen and a few others about what we call BioConnect. We provide, if you've got to work, why not work in a technology field that you're going to go into, and it enhances your learning and it provides a workforce for them. So you're absolutely right. We're having those discussions, as well. But somebody's got to make the first move, and so we're still waiting for the first move. But we're very optimistic because we are having, as Christine has described, all of the wonderful partnerships St. Aug has developed, and Shaw is doing the same thing, and we think that they will continue to come to fruition, and we're just trying to position ourselves with the support of partners to be able to deliver on our commitment to make our communities better and able to participate economically in the amazing growth that's taken place in the city.
Well, and I guess my thought would be to echo your sentiments. And Mr. Raleigh, this is probably directed towards you, but what about the economic development department within the city sort of facilitating some of these conversations to kind of bridge the gap with some of the public-private partnerships. I mean, that may be a way to sort of get some of these conversations off the ground and going and see how we could leverage some of our resources that way.
Yeah, Councilmember Ford, I would say, that's certainly something I think that we could take on as staff. I think relative to several of the things that I've heard discussed today, I think there's, if this committee makes recommendations to the council to have us pursue some of the partnership opportunities that have been raised, I think that's absolutely a part of the work that would be inherent in us continuing down that path.
Yeah, I was gonna, I think at the appropriate point, I think there's two recommendations I think we could make, and they're just gonna be copying what you sent us. I would like to have staff look at this Raleigh Racial Equity Initiative, kind of what Charlotte did. What could we act on? How did they do it? And then the collaborative around establishing this community-based center for workforce development and digital equity, which I think our role could be sort of like the quarterback or the point guard of trying to bring together these various interested parties, the city being one of them. But I also went immediately to public-private partnerships, especially on the equipment piece. We have Lenovo and RTP. We have folks that I think could be very helpful with some of the resources that would be needed to stand up this program, understanding that, one, it's the right thing to do, and two, it's going to be a long-term investment for them, because then they will have qualified folks who are local coming out to be able to fill the jobs. And then one other piece I heard that has really stuck with me too was about this, for it to work, we have to be in it for the long haul, and it's a strategy and a mindset. And I think that is also something where the city can lead on, because not only for the city, but for the private sector as well. Whenever we are approached about incentives to bring companies here, we talk about workforce development, their first stop should be our HBCUs, should be our institutions of higher education and learning for that recruitment and workforce development. And so this could be like a pillar we could really stand up to help there. And so, I think the two big takeaways then would be to recommend out of committee that we authorize staff to research this Charlotte's model for the Racial Equity Initiative, and then the collaborative on the workforce development and digital equity.
Before we jump to making a recommendation like that, I'd like to keep this in committee to get more information. The other thing I think we also need to consider is we have Wake Tech, we have William Pease University, we have Meredith College. There's a lot of stuff here. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask a real tough question, because one of the things I'm also thinking about is duplication of efforts. Have you all talked about partnering on something together? So it's not just this is a Shaw thing or it's a St. Aug's thing. It's the two of you coming together for your students, and even potentially with one of the other colleges I just mentioned. Because I think that's where we can get really caught up, is duplication of efforts, as opposed to working together to make one thing really successful. And that's our shining example. So now I understand.
But I'm gonna tell you, Mayor, Wake Tech, and both St. Aug and I have great partnerships with Wake Tech.
Yes.
I'm fully aware of that, because I just rolled off their foundation board, so I'm very aware of the relationships.
Yeah, and so with the cyber operations program, that is a prime example. And so the students are going through Wake Tech and then coming over to Shaw, and also we're using faculty here, staff there. So the fact that we are part of the Cooperating Raleigh Colleges consortium, we already have, a predisposition, to working together and not, duplicating, efforts wherever we can. And Christine and I have been in serious talks about, how can we, even on a more granular level, look at reducing duplication in certain services that we each have to have, back office kinds of processes, et cetera. And you probably know this as well as we do, in the higher ed landscape right now, if you can't find ways to do things like that, the outlook is pretty daunting. And so we look for, those opportunities, and we're getting even more granular with those kinds of things going forward. But, and we just, RTP has just given us space, out there to work on, recruiting companies and doing work out there. So we're all, very hard at work trying to figure out how, to operate within this ecosystem to the advantage of everybody. And so partnership is certainly in the mix, and something that we don't shy away from, because we know that that's the pathway for survival in the current landscape.
Yeah, especially as you
Conversation.
have fewer students. I mean, with the demographic shifts and whatnot, there are fewer students to go around.
Yes.
And so that's creating a number of challenges as well. So I had to ask that
Oh,
because I
absolutely.
think that is key. And I know that in the past, and I'm not saying in the recent past, but in the past, there has been absolute resistance, and the answer has been not only no, but hell no. And so,
Life causes you to rethink a lot of stuff.
Exactly. I'm hoping that we focus on the part of the narrative that is very much at the core of where we are. We're offering an opportunity for the city of Raleigh to build a legacy here, to support, own the issues with advancing the HBCUs. Reminding us that, and we are mindful of the kind of partnerships we need, but this is the kind of thing we're talking about now, is the city of Raleigh and the county of Wake owning this situation as well. What do I mean by owning it is being bold like the city of Charlotte was, and say we're not just involved in this, we are part of it, and we're engaged in it, and we're going to start putting some line items on a regular basis to advance HBCUs. We're going to let the corporations and big business that is coming into our areas know that they have to commit to the HBCUs too. This is not a short-term partnership, this is a lifelong thing, because we're all Raleigh. That's the focus of this kind of Raleigh diversity and equity initiative that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. We can go back this afternoon and come up with some partnerships that we can engage in. That's not going to be the glue that we need. We need these folks who are coming in to know that this city and these counties around us are very serious about the long-term sustainability of HBCUs. Mm-hmm. HBCUs in this country and in this city and this county has democratized higher education. And there's no way to wage an argument against that. We need the support to continue to do that, and we believe that we are positioned not only with our resources and the talent that we bring to the table to be very strategic in the growth and development of this region.
Mm-hmm.
Customer report.
Well, and Dr. McPhail, I'll echo your sentiments, because I realize that the importance of the legacies of the HBCUs are critical to the city of Raleigh. So I agree, the public-private partnerships and everything that we can do to, facilitate getting additional resources to you is important. But I do want to make sure that you understand there is a commitment to protect the legacies of both of the institutions, because we realize how important that is for both institutions as well. So I just want to say that to you directly.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am.
So as I said, instead of reporting something out, I would like to explore a couple of things. I want to know more about what Charlotte has done. I would like to ask our economic development office, but also maybe our economic development, Kyle Touchstone at the chamber, for some like insight or assistance there. And then also have the two of you maybe come back with some ideas on partnership that we could consider. And then I think too, we can get by bringing in our economic development folks, we can get a better idea because they're talking to each other all the time. Who might be interested in a partnership like this and really help move it along?
All right, so the two recommendations we heard today were about the Raleigh Racial Equity Initiative, what did Charlotte do there, and then about how we can collaborate on this workforce development, digital equity development piece. And so if we keep it in committee, then, Mr. Raleigh, if you are, our next meeting or the one after, however much time staff needs, bring us back, I guess, maybe more specific information so that when we do make the recommendation from the full council, we have actual like items we can
Data.
vote on rather than have the council vote and then have you do that work. So we can sort of tailor it a little more here, which I think allows you all to, maybe if you come back, if you have the time, to help us sort of massage what we will recommend to the full council rather than maybe giving them these more broad topics. We can come up with the steps and the plan, recommend that out, have the council vote on it, and then it'll be ready.
Yes.
Are we good with that? Is there anything else?
Are we talking about, we are talking about the marriage kind of partnership, right?
I think so. I mean, I think on one for the racial equity initiative, seeing what Charlotte did at our next meeting, having staff bring us, here's everything in Charlotte's plan. Here's how we think we could position or leverage it here in Raleigh. These are our ideas on the staff level, so that when we recommend it out to the full council for them to take action,
I understand the approach,
we have
yes.
more like tangible action items, I guess.
I appreciate that, and I think that's an appropriate direction, yes.
And just like the digital equity, piece, how can you come together on something like that? So again, we're not duplicating efforts, we're working together, but it's a very cohesive plan.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have
What kind
you
of
need?
time frame?
Yeah, so our, it's May, right? So we will have a council meeting in June. We'll have this committee meeting at the end of June, and then we're on council break in July, so then we'll meet again in August. So it will be however fast Mr. Raleigh thinks they can move. If you think you can bring it back to us for the June meeting, great. If not, it'll come back in the August meeting.
I would suggest we probably are looking at August only, because I want to make sure that this has due time. We
Right.
will work with all deliberate speed to take action, but I want to make sure that we're thoughtful. And I know that we also do have one additional item pending that needs
We have one
some
item pending that we were going to
attention.
take up in June,
Right.
which is like a technical code issue. So
but
maybe we do that in
small.
June, clear that out, and then
Yeah.
we have, this will be the only item left, and we could really focus all the attention on
Right.
that. And
Right.
So we'll plan to reconvene in August to continue this with some specific action and ideas from both our economic development team and the manager's office looking at Charlotte's
all of
plan.
you.
And yeah, if you can come back too, that would be.
And then meantime, we would work on what the collaboration
Sure.
would
Yes.
would look like, and what the specific needs would be to stand it up, and then how we might also look at the connection to the connectors program,
Digital connectors.
digital connectors.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that could be like a natural sort of marrying of, it's really the same initiative as digital literacy, computer literacy, getting folks set up for success. But that digital connectors is geared towards kids.
Youth, yeah.
Youth.
Right,
There.
and this
Yeah.
is retraining,
Yeah.
folk, especially in communities where we have a history of teaching, skills and education to populations that are not necessarily successful in other venues, and we'd like to bring that to bear in workforce development, in areas where we believe that there are folks with the potential. They just need, the access.
Great.
Yeah, one thing with digital connectors, their goal is also to go back and educate their communities. So it's their, aunties and grandmas and grandpa or whomever, but helping them understand how this all works. And it really is meant to build community and help them be those leaders and educators and whatnot. And I will tell you, having watched these kids in the Digital Connectors program, it's amazing how they blossom in front of your eyes. And we have had them attend the Raleigh Innovation Summit before. It will blow your mind just how much growth occurs during the course of this program. But then if there's a partnership there, helping
Yeah.
them see.
Yeah, well, we do a program through AARP where we bring seniors on campus and we provide them snacks and we teach them how to use computers and phones and identify scams and they have the best
Important part of that.
and they have the best time. And so that's a program funded through the AARP.
That's awesome.
And we do it on campus with faculty. And they come away and they are so excited that they now know how to use their phones. They now know how to, tell what's phishing, and they can ask all those questions that they don't want to ask their grandkids because they don't have patience with them. And so, I'll invite you over, when they're having one of those sessions, and it is amazing. The fun they have participating in, the technical, training that we do for our senior citizens. So.
I'm gonna go. Well, I think this was a great start to the conversation, and so we will continue this in August, and that meeting would be August 22nd at 1:30 here. And so I think we all sort of have an understanding of what action items we need to come back for that. I think this was just the first step in what's going to be hopefully a very long-term, strong partnership, and we'll get some actual, action items that we can start referring out to council. And I thank you both very, very much for the time and presentation and for bringing us these ideas. And now let's just drill down on them and get this done.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else for today?
Thank you.
Do you have what you need, Mr. Raleigh?
I do. Thank
Okay.
you.
Meeting adjourned.